Welcome to our Vault Shorts. Today we are joined by fellow BSED coworkers, Brandon and Heather, to tell us about business financing tool for Montana businesses.
The following is a Big Sky Economic Development production.
It's Mars B.
And Kavo.
And this is The Vault at 201 North Broadway.
A business podcast.
Where we bring you entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders of Montana.
To share their stories, expertise, industry insights, and strategies.
And we are sharing them all with you every single week.
You don't want to miss this.
Learn how to better start, manage, and grow your business.
And your leadership style.
Tangible takeaways to save you time and improve whatever it is that you're working on.
You're listening to The Vault.
Thank you to Big Sky Economic Development for supporting The Vault at 201 North Broadway. Big Sky Economic Development provides leadership and resources for business creation, expansion, retention, new business recruitment, and community development. If you are starting a business, growing or expanding your business, diversifying your customer base, or maybe you're looking for business trainings to attend to continue to learn and grow, they're excited and here to help. Even if you're thinking of relocating your company into Billings, they're a resource for you. BSED also provides resources for community development initiatives by planning, partnering, and managing projects and administering grants for redevelopment and placemaking. Their workforce development program brings together industry and education partners to anticipate and respond to community workforce needs. And they provide talent attraction and retention resources for your business to use under the community brand Better Off in Billings. BSED's Rock 31 program is focused on helping startups thrive. And in their location in downtown Billings, they have 2 floors dedicated to co-working and additional spaces throughout their building open to the community to host their meetings, events, and trainings. Visit bigskyeconomicdevelopment.org. Again, that's bigskyeconomicdevelopment.org, or follow them on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So let's just jump right in. You guys, what is the SBA 504 loan program?
Well, to put it simply, the SBA 504 loan program is used to finance commercial owner-occupied real estate and or equipment. So it's a SBA program that we at Big Sky utilize. We are not SBA, but we're certified by SBA, so to speak, to administer this program. We partner with banks in doing this. So in every project we do, we are working with a bank partner, but it is primarily used for small businesses, for us here in Montana, that are going to purchase a building that they're going to occupy.
So just a follow-up question with that. If I'm going to purchase a piece of land and build on it, is that a qualifying project?
Yep, that works perfect. You can either purchase an existing building, you can purchase an existing building and do renovations, or you can do, like you just said, ground-up construction on land that you've purchased.
And potentially you could even have an existing building that you want to renovate, and we would do the renovations.
Oh, okay. Before we get into more, I have lots of questions for those things. So we said SBA 504 loan, which is a program of the SBA, but give us a little more details about Big Sky Finance, that program, how it relates to Big Sky Economic Development, and why we're the ones with the SBA 504 loan. I love lots of questions. So
Sure.
Yeah.
So basically, Big Sky Finance, which is an arm of Big Sky Economic Development, we are primarily involved with lending. So one of our tools is the SBA 504 loan, which I'll get into that here a little bit more. But we also have some internal loan funds that we can utilize for businesses here in Yellowstone County. So as an organization, 20 years ago, we became certified in order to do the SBA 504 loan. And just prior to that, we also established our revolving loan fund. That time we were established with $500,000 that we could lend to businesses here in Yellowstone County. We've grown that fund, added to it. So we've got different financing options that we can utilize. And a lot of times we're doing this to help borrowers who maybe can't get all their financing through a bank. So they can come to us and we can help with that financing they're not able to obtain. How did we start the SBA 504? How did we get into that?
Yes.
Good question. So yeah, about 20 years ago now, we became what's called a certified development company. So Big Sky Economic Development at that time decided they wanted to start, and at that time we were more of a quasi-government agency. We wanted to get the private sector involved in what we were doing as an organization. So in order to do that, we started or became certified by the SBA to become what's called a certified development company. In doing so, what we did then is we brought those private dollars or started working with banks. At that time, we had to bring on member investor companies as part of the membership to be a 504 lender. So that's how we then did that, to have that public-private relationship so that we could work more directly with our local businesses in Yellowstone County and across the state.
One thing that's kind of key that people may have heard of the Small Business Administration, also known as the SBA. Sometimes people don't even know what the SBA stands for. So it's a federally funded program that is targeted at lending to small businesses to expand small businesses in the United States. The one thing that people don't know is that the SBA does not lend directly to the client, to the company. And that's what we do, is we facilitate the program. We're kind of like the intermediary between the bank and the borrower and the SBA.
So does the SBA, for those listening, because it acronym city over here, but is there like a cap on funds that they'll loan out per year? And then the same, let's start with that one.
Let's start with that. So
I have other questions.
So when it comes to the SBA 504 loan program, there really is no cap on how much SBA can lend out during the year. With the SBA 7A program, which is a loan guarantee program, federally there is a cap on how much they can, it's set by government, how much they can lend. But with ours, there's really no cap, so there's no shortage of funds for us to lend out throughout the year. Each borrower has a limit on how much they can receive through funding, and that's up to $5 million. And that's over the life of, at any one time, they can't have more than $5 million outstanding. But the nice part about the 504 loan program, as Heather stated, it's a program funded by the government, so to speak. They go out and they sell bonds on the open market to fund these. That's why there's really no shortage of funds. That's cool. And I just want to get back to one thing when you asked, why did Big Sky establish this program? And another important piece of that is to help us generate revenue for our organization. So that's a big part of what the 504 loan program does for us. There's benefits to the borrower and the lender, which we'll probably talk about. But for us as an organization, it helps us because we get an origination fee and then an ongoing servicing fee from all the loans we do. But what that does for us as an organization is that helps us to reinvest more monies into economic development in our region.
I love how you tied that together. I think that's important.
And that's why it's important to use a Montana CDC for your 504 financing needs, as opposed to using an out-of-state CDC, because we do currently have 2 out-of-state competitors that are working heavily in the state of Montana, and those funds do not stay in Montana and help the community and economy of the state.
I like that you brought that up. So because you guys, so the EDA RLF that you guys distribute and some of those other ones are sometimes just specific to Yellowstone County, but this 504 loan that your team works on is statewide.
Correct. Yeah, we can do loans across the entire state of Montana. So we are what's called a statewide certified development company. So we are not just here in Yellowstone County, but we do loans in any community within the state of Montana. And as Heather said, that's important because we are one of 2 Montana CDCs. There's other out-of-state CDCs that are our competitors, but we're the one of the main ones here in Montana. So those monies that we generate, they stay here locally and reinvested.
And I do want to clarify, we can do deals out of state with permission. For example, we just did one, a great business out of Missoula that was expanding into Colorado, and we helped them buy a facility down there. So if there's a local or Montana-based business that's looking to expand out of state, we can definitely look at that.
That's great. So what that's telling me, and let me know if I'm incorrect, is that can you be working with, let's use company Z doing multiple 504 loans at the same, like if they did one year and then 3 years later, can they come back and do another one for a different project?
Yes. Yeah, and we've done that. We've got a couple of borrowers that we've done multiple loans for. Again, the one thing we have to watch is that at any one time they don't have more than $5 million of SBA funding outstanding. But a good example of that is King's Ace Hardware here in Billings. We've now done, for that owner, Skip King there, we've done 5 loans for him, SBA 504 loans for him. So, yes, we can work on multiple loans for any one borrower.
And in different locations
In different locations, you bet.
That's really cool. So can you talk to us a little bit about what that whole process is, who's involved? If there's businesses listening to this, at what point do they know if this would be a good option, and how would they find out that information?
Yeah, and you also mentioned that there's benefits to the Big Sky Finance, but there's also benefits to the borrower. So what kind of benefits are those?
Yeah, so we'll go through the benefits first. I think
Yeah.
it's important for people to know what the benefits to the program are versus straight traditional financing for commercial real estate. Well, let's talk about for the borrower. So there are a couple key benefits to the borrower when participating on a 504 loan. First of all, they're going to get a fixed rate financing. So the typical structure on a 504 loan is on a total project cost. We'll keep the numbers, the math simple here for Heather.
Thank you, I appreciate
And
that.
me.
And our host.
Which is ironic since I do all of the numbers work here.
She's a very good 10 key operator.
Thank you. Thank you.
But let's just say, for example, we got an individual or business that's purchasing a building for $1 million. The financing structure in participating with the 504 loan program is this. The bank, their lender, their commercial lender they're working with, they're going to finance 50% of that. And they're going to be in what's considered a first lien position. Okay, so that's a big benefit to the bank. SBA is going to come in and we're going to finance up to 40% of that. So the SBA portion is going to be 40%. And the first benefit to the borrower is that they're going to come in with as little as 10% down. On a traditional commercial real estate project, we're probably seeing 25 to 30 or more equity requirement, the down payment requirement. So with this program, they can get into it with as little as 10% down.
Wow.
The other part of that, so the bank, like I said, SBA is going to do 40% of that financing. We're going to be in a second lien position, so we're going to be behind the bank. So that helps the bank in their, from their standpoint with collateral. But we're going to be in a second lien position. On that 40%, the borrower is going to get a fixed rate for the term of the note. And on a real estate, we're going to do either a 20 or 25-year note. So they're going to have a fixed rate. And right now, our rates, and historically, our rates have been below market. So I think our rates right now are around 6.3%, 6.4%, right in there.
And to give an example of what's the market now?
The market's probably the upper 7s, 8%, somewhere in there.
Yeah, we've seen it come down a little bit. It was over 8,
Yeah.
and right now we're seeing a lot like 7.25.
And then
Ours are about 6 and a little over 6 and a
they've
quarter.
come down a little bit.
They've come
too.
down. Yeah, the last 3 months they've come down. So, but the nice part is when a borrower gets that loan through the 504, they're going to have that fixed rate. So they're going to know their payment stream for the next 20 or 25 years. And so that's a huge benefit. Even in today's rates, when rates are a little bit higher, a 6% fixed rate for 20 or 25 years is very beneficial. So those are the two main benefits to a borrower is one, they're going to get that 10%, in most cases, 10% down, and also the fixed rate on the term of their loan.
So question, let's say in 2 years, we all hope let's say the rate goes down or the percentage goes down again to like 3-4%. Can they refinance?
They could refinance.
If they want.
They could refinance if they want. It's obviously something you really got to take a close look at because that could just be a temporary drop. And there are some costs to refinancing. So, someone who's had a loan for just a couple of years is probably not advisable to do that. If we were to see rates like that, we could look and see. But unfortunately, or one of the downfalls, I wouldn't say downfalls, but part of the SBA 504 program, same as commercial loans, is there's a prepayment penalty. So you have to take that into consideration if you're going to refinance the SBA portion. But a borrower could always leave the SBA portion as it is and refinance that bank's portion, which is probably at a higher rate, down to a lower rate.
And do they usually pay off within that 20, 25 years, or do you see them pay off early?
Typically, we see them pay off early. I'd say probably the average life of a loan in our portfolios, 8 to 10 years. We've had some that have gone through the term of their loan, but I'd say lots of times it's close to that 10 years. A business may sell. Owner decides they want out, so they're going to sell, or by that time they've got enough equity built up, they may refinance the loan traditionally. They're able to use our program to get in there with a low down payment. They built up their credit, they built up the equity in that building, and a bank may come in and refinance it. But yeah, I'd say 8 to 10 years is a typical life of our loan, which makes us happy.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
What can it be used for? So you kind of touched on that it's for like real estate purchases, equipment, but what are some of the big things that are just a no-go?
Well, as far as a no-go, it's more the type of business that doesn't qualify. First of all, they have to be a for-profit business. Probably what we see more often than not for ineligible type businesses, one, if it's investor property. So if you've got someone who's just going to build some apartments and rent those out, that's an investment, that's passive income, that's not eligible. Another that's not eligible is casinos. So if there's gambling over a certain limit, over 1/3 of their revenues from gambling, they wouldn't qualify. And I usually tell my lenders and borrowers that if you see the name or the word casino in that business name, more often than not, they probably won't qualify. Not always the case. We could look at it, but those are probably two of the big ones that we see as far as ineligible types of business.
Some unique ones that are eligible are hotels and storage units. We actually have been getting a lot of interest in the Billings market for storage facilities lately, and those are, in certain instances, eligible for the program.
Yeah, it is unique because that is technically passive income, but those are two things that are eligible, and lots of times people don't realize that.
So what are some types of companies that you've worked with across the state of Montana, even if you want to name the companies or just like the type of business they are? I know you've done some restaurants.
When I first started, I felt like all we were doing is restaurants. And that's one, the reason is restaurants are higher risk industries. Some banks won't even, if it's a restaurant, don't even come to them. They don't want to hear anything about it. Some banks will do restaurants, but they like the 504 program because they are not on the hook for the full financing. It reduces the bank's liability. So they're a lot more apt to look at doing a restaurant if they can partner with us on the deal. So we've done quite a few restaurants. We've done, like I said, we've been looking at a lot of different storage facilities.
It really runs across the whole gamut of what we've done. Hotels, we haven't done a hotel recently. We for a while we were doing a lot of hotels, kind of for that same reason. Banks like to do hotels with the 504 program because it's going to reduce their risk and their exposure. But professional businesses, medical, office medical practices, eye physicians, dentists, all those type of professionals, veterinarian practices. We've looked at
We've been doing a couple vets lately. Some of the ones that are proudly featured on our website. Brandon's big project was Meadowlark Brewing out on the West End.
Here in Billings.
Here in Billings, yeah.
Even like the hot tub.
Yeah, we did Mountain Hot Tub in Bozeman, which was an SBA, National SBA Lender of the Year winner. So
Buggy Bath Car Wash out on Shiloh. That was another.
So really, it's
project.
A lot of like a climbing gym here, a detailing company that does like car detailing and other things.
The new building for 406 Windows and Doors. They had been in business over 20 years, renting a space, and just needed to have their own building that they could have their warehouse space, their showroom, everything in one spot. And we were able to help them get into their own building with lower percent down. And
they have fun windows there.
Yeah, their building's awesome. They were great to work with.
And that's an interesting one just because, like Heather said, they were leasing a small space for their showroom, and then I think they had 2 or 3 other places they were leasing for storage, for inventory, and so they were able to consolidate all that into one building. But
I bet they love that.
Yeah, it's a variety of businesses, restaurants, diesel mechanic shops. We've done convenience stores. Those are always a little trickier, but hair salons, regular retail stores.
I think of one even in Missoula, that Restyle.
Yeah, Restyle Clothing in Missoula is one we did a few years back. Some big name ones we've done. Sims Fishing up in Bozeman was a big one that we did, and
that's cool.
They've obviously grown to huge, and now
the logo, I can see it in my head at this moment.
What a great success story that was.
And we're all going to get ads for it on our phones.
Yes,
now.
we are.
That's right.
Franchises. That's one that comes about in just general conversation with us and our clients all the time. How does that relate with the 504 program?
Yeah, so they've They've made some changes to that. They've actually made it easier for us to finance franchises, but franchises historically have been a very big user of the SBA 504 loan program. You still have to qualify that franchise. SBA has a list of what's eligible, those qualified franchises already, but for the most part, it's something we look at, but they're majority of all franchises we can do. We see a lot of restaurants, obviously, that are franchises and can do that. Hotels are all franchise for the most part. But franchise lending is something that's very popular with SBA.
So what are some of your favorite parts about the program, both of you?
I mean, I think the best part is seeing what we're able to accomplish for clients. Because there are, I mean, a lot of the clients that we work with, the number one thing that they're interested in the program is less cash in. So to go from 10%, which is on $1 million, $100,000, versus 25% or $250,000 that the bank would require, that can be all of the difference in whether or not a company can do the project or not. And then I work really closely with companies when they need to do projections. Projections are always really tough, and so work really closely with companies to get them to a point where they're bankable and the bank's happy and we can get it approved through the SBA and feel like we have a good credit.
So you're really there along that whole process with them once they get in contact with you to really make sure that, you know, the finances all
and if it doesn't work, you know, we have honest conversations. We had one recently where it was like, you know, at this time, I just don't think it's in your best interest. We don't want to get someone into a new building if they can't afford the payments on it. And so sometimes we have to have those tough conversations, but if we can make it work and it's a viable project, we will get it there.
Yeah, I would just second what Heather said. I think it's, for me, obviously just administering the program, great team we work with, great organization, but just getting to work with those borrowers, you know, oftentimes they need that assistance a little bit more to get the project done. You know, some we work with very strong borrowers too, where it's not, and you know, those are fun, but I think working with those where and maybe it's a little more frustrating sometimes through the process, but when we have to get to hold their hands a little bit more and really dive into the numbers with them, but then see at the end of the day that they're getting into that building that they are now owning rather than leasing and renting. They have control over it. They occupy it. So, you know, just seeing that at the end of the day is really what makes me the happiest and feel best about my job, is working with those. And the other nice thing is in what we do, you know, not only we're working with many small business owners, but the best part is we get to work with, you know, we're not working with just one lender. You know, if you're at a bank, you're kind of have just your customer base, but we're working with all these borrowers, plus all these lenders, lending partners across the state. And I think that is something I really enjoy, especially just getting out there and talking to lenders and that across the state and seeing what's going on in their communities. So that's a big part of it.
And you're making a big impact all across the state, like you said, not just, I mean, it's great within Yellowstone County. I can visually see a lot of your projects, but all across the state as well, and the impact that you're making for those businesses, those small businesses. Yeah,
one deal that I don't want to speak too much about because we're still in the closing process on it, but it's probably been my favorite credit that I've worked on since I've been here. A small manufacturer who has maxed out current space and is getting very large contracts with wholesalers and major retailers, and he's out of space. So this is the one that I mentioned earlier that bought a new location down in the Denver area, and he is going to be able to more than double his production, fill those orders, and just really grow his business. He's at a pivotal point in his business that he physically cannot continue to grow if he doesn't add space. And so that one has been a really cool.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, and he
just,
was,
I mean, like, so impactful of, like, when he looks back in 5-10 years, he'll be like, that was the moment.
And that's why I told him, I was like, this is going to be huge for your business, and, you know, I believe in this, so we're going to get it across the finish line. There was definitely a couple moments here and there that were a struggle, and they're now approaching closing, so it's going to be really cool for him.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
We will. Are there other things about the program from a lender perspective, from your perspective, or from like a borrower perspective that we haven't asked about yet?
I think the biggest thing is when there's a stigma with, the SBA. It takes so long. It's such a pain. And yeah, there are some additional things that the SBA required that a traditional bank may not require, but that's what we're here for. We manage all of that, and we do our best to at least bring the headache down so that we can get it through the process, because in the end, it's worth it. And some people, like I said, it's not really an option. If they can't do 10%, then they can't get into the new building or buy the new equipment. So sometimes there's a little bit more of a struggle, but like I said, we do our best to mitigate that and to not put it on the bank, to not put it on the borrower, and to just handle that to try to make it as smooth and seamless as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that Heather brings up is that our process is we want to work hand in hand, coincide with the bank and the timing of it. So really, for the most part, as Heather said, there's some things we need in addition to what a bank does. For the most part, on an application package, what we're going to require for our underwriting is the same thing the bank's doing. So, we want to get involved in the process as early as possible so that we can see if there's any eligibility issues, or if there's things that may come up that we might think there's an issue with the SBA, we can handle that up front. But, we're looking to get that approval as quickly as possible, because we get our approval in place. Then the bank knows they can go forward with their approval in order for the person to either start construction or purchase the building. So that is an important piece, and timing is big, but the sooner people can get us involved in it, the better, because I think we handle that process very well. We've gotten a lot better at it, and we want to get the deal done as quickly as possible.
So talk to us a little bit about that process of just like, what does that look like? Are you communicating with the lender and borrower at the same time? Give us some details on what that process looks like.
So deals come to us one of two ways generally. Either a lender calls us and says, hey, I'm working with a client and they're interested in the SBA program. Do we think it's a fit? Or B, been getting a lot where people get on their Googling tool and say SBA 504 and up we pop. And so they give us a call and they say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Would it be eligible? And so we talk through that process. And if it's someone calling us directly, if it's a borrower calling us directly, we always talk to them about whether or not they'd be eligible. We ask them who their lender is, and we tell them, get your lender involved as soon as possible so we can all start working on it together. Once we've identified that the deal is eligible for the 504 program, then it all kind of depends. We kind of follow the bank's lead. We let the bank decide if they want us to take the lead and work directly with the client, or if they prefer to be more involved and have everything go through them. But we do work a lot directly with the client. And then we share information with the bank so that the bank's not having to duplicate what we're doing. And so usually once I start underwriting a credit, I'm working directly with the borrower.
So what does that timeline look like? I know every deal is different, and so timelines are all different, but if you could give like a typical average timeline.
What we always strive for is, again, we want to get involved as early as possible. And kind of the general word we'll give to a borrower and a lender is we want to get approval within 30 days. And when I say approval, that's through SBA. So kind of the way the process works is, what Heather just talked about, we're going to get contacted by the lender or the borrower. At that point, we're going to start gathering information. So whether we're working directly with the borrower, we're going to start getting their financial package. Or if it's a lender who's already has that, they can send us that stuff. So we're going to start working on our underwriting. So we go through our underwriting process, and, if we have everything, we can get that done within a week. And we get that then submitted to our loan committee. We have an internal loan committee that we have to get things approved through. So let's just say it's about a 2-week time frame if we have a good complete package where we get that through to our loan committee. Once our loan committee approves it, then we package it and submit it to SBA for their approval. That'll take a day or two to get that package put together, depending on if we have everything and whatnot. We need some final signatures. We get that submitted to SBA, and right now SBA's turn time's 3 to 5 days on average. So, in a perfect world, 3 to 4 weeks is what we can look at for our approval. The key point there is that approval, because as I mentioned earlier, a bank is not going to want to close on the purchase of that building, because the bank's going to finance the purchase. If it's a straight purchase, they're going to finance the purchase of that building up front. But they want to know that SBA's approval is in place so that come time that we sell our debenture and fund our loan, it's going to pay the bank down our 40%. They want to know that's in place so they can close out that loan, because they're going to be hanging out there at 90% financing for a short period of time. That's what the time frame we're targeting, and we've gotten some approved within 2 weeks.
Yep, and some of it too is whether or not an appraisal or an environmental report is required on the property. More and more banks want to have all of that information ahead of time before they seek approval. So appraisals can take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, but generally we're working on it and ready to go with it.
And it sounds like, and I've never done deals in either camps, obviously, but I'm assuming that that's the same timeline roughly that it would be if X company was just working with a bank anyways. Like it's nothing, it's the timeline's not that, they're pretty similar.
Right now I have a deal that is approved and we're waiting for the bank to get approval on their side. So we're ahead of the bank right now.
Yeah.
That's really cool. This has been great.
This has been awesome.
Lots of good information. You guys are doing lots of great work all across the state of Montana. Where can people listening go and find more information about the program?
Yep, you can go to our website, bigskyfinance.org is one good place to do. We have information out there. We have our forms, our application package, and some of the other forms we need. You can always just call Big Sky Economic Development, ask for either Heather or myself, or Tyler, our business development officer, probably the two best places, or you can walk into 201 North Broadway.
For you locals and Billings.
For us locals. But I would say a great way to do it is just look us up on our webpage and do it that way. Under the lending programs, you'll find our contact information.
And there's a lot of great resources on your webpage. Like it gives you information, it has your contact information, there's the current rates for this each month that you guys get given, and then also a calculator, right?
Yep, there's a great loan calculator. So if someone has an idea of what their building is going to cost, they want to see what that breakdown of the financing structure is going to look like, they can plug it into there and it pulls up, you can input the rates, the terms, and it'll pull up what our portion is going to be, what the bank's portion is going to be, and their equity requirement.
So cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you guys.
Like Brandon said, we're happy to answer any questions. There's so many specifics to the program and eligibility, and if you meet the 10%, and we're happy to talk you through it. And you can always call us and before the bank, and because we're the experts on it, and then get in touch. We'll circle everybody back together if it works out.
Yeah, I'm glad Heather brought that up, because I think that's the biggest takeaway from this is for borrowers especially, and lenders, we tell all of them, but we are that resource. We are the SBA resource. So don't you try to figure out if your business qualifies or what can be included in the financing, things like that. Pick up the phone, send us an email, give us a call, because that's what we're here for. And whether it's going to be a project we work on or not, we're happy to be that resource for you.
And they're great about answering questions because they answer my questions all the time.
Well, thank you guys. And that's bigskyfinance.org for your financing of Montana business. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Make sure you are subscribed to The Vault at 201 North Broadway, wherever you podcast, including YouTube.
Connect with us on Facebook at The Vault at 201 North Broadway and Instagram at TheVault_201.
Don't forget to visit us at thevault@201.com and subscribe to our newsletter.
We will see you next time.
Bye. Thank you to the Small Business Development Center for sponsoring The Vault at 201 North Broadway. The Small Business Development Center offers free personalized support from business plans to financial projections and beyond, empowering small businesses to thrive. Reach out to us at bigskyEconomicDevelopment.org.